We'll get started. Welcome, everyone. My name is George Sainteus with the Metro New York chapter of the National Black MBA Association. Today, I have a good friend of mine, also a mentor of mine, Willie Mae Veasy, as the guest speaker. She's the president of Convent Business Concepts, LLC. And we're going to get started. Okay.
Hello, everyone.
All right. So, Willie Mae, how you doing?
I'm doing real well. Thank you so much, George, for inviting me to be on this forum. I so appreciate it. The New York Black MBA, exciting.
Yes. We are excited to have you. This is, I think, over a year in the making. I always wanted to get you in front of a camera, record your story, and also let the folks in my community, the community I serve, to understand some of the business concepts that you've been teaching me over the course of the year at this Columbia Community Business Program. Okay, so let's get started. I started my community conversation video series 1 year from when I opened up my storefront. This was back in 2017. After 11 years in corporate, I wanted folks to hear the meaningful and transformative stories that I have got a chance to hear from the entrepreneurs that I serve. Some of these stories are very fascinating, and I know that in the corporate world, I didn't have an opportunity to hear these stories, and so it was important that I sort of captured and archived some of these small business owners' perspective on the world as it is, and also the role they play in the world as a business owner and within the communities that they serve. And it has since morphed into something much bigger. We have had a chance to interview roughly 10 to 15 entrepreneurs, and I'm slowly putting out these videos, and today, it was important for me to sort of highlight an entrepreneur, and also not only an entrepreneur, but someone that gives back into the entrepreneur community. As a instructor and a mentor of mine who is part of our Columbia CCBP program. This program, it was very important for me to join it as a community organizer, an entrepreneur in the Upper Manhattan area. It was important for me to align myself to Columbia University in some capacity. So the CCBP program allowed me to do so by having a chance to take classes at Columbia and have real live examples of how to run your business efficiently. So Willie Mae has been one of our many instructors in the program. She leads us in terms of sharing her knowledge and guidance on how to run our business efficiently. In the group, we have a cohort of about 20 entrepreneurs in various different disciplines who collaborate on ideas and also help each other out. And it became very, very important on that collaboration and that sort of family we built, especially during these amazing times in the world that we live in. So I finally got Willie Mae, after a year of sort of coming up with ideas and things like that, and we wanted to sort of highlight what the world of entrepreneurism is, or what the world of entrepreneurism is, and what the world in terms of opportunity will be in this new world approaching, right? So the title of our discussion today, and I'm going to let Willie Mae introduce herself, but I just kind of wanted to sort of talk about the title. The title of our series today is really around if you have some ideas, whether you're entrepreneur, or whether you're you're a young professional, or whether you're a student, how do you set up that idea for success in the near future? right? We understand that the world is changing, and we understand that there's some core fundamental foundations that you need to have in order to ensure success of your idea. But there's also some new sort of ways you should start thinking as it relates to modernizing your business. So Willie Mae, thank
Yes.
you for joining us. I know that was a long intro, but I wanted the folks to sort of understand who you are, what's your background. So at this time,
So thank you for having me. As you said, I'm Willie Mae Veasy, the president of Covenant Business Concepts. We are an award-winning firm, and we specialize in the creation of business accelerators, centers of excellence. We also do leadership and management training. I've been in the business for well over 30 years or so that explains the gray hair. And what we really love doing is helping small business owners grow their business. And we do that best, as you mentioned, George, through the Columbia Community Business Program, which we affectionately call CCBP. George, for the listening and watching audience, is one of our star pupils. As I call
you just say that, Willie Mae.
No. I mean, this is a fantastic cohort of entrepreneurs. So we have 21 entrepreneurs in this program. The CCBP is a 2-year program that Columbia has created as a give back to the community. And so people participate free of charge for 2 years, and they get taught by Columbia faculty. So it's essentially an executive education program that really focuses on helping these small business owners who are committed to the community to help stabilize their business in the first year and then grow the business in the second. Absolutely. And George asked me to also mention, I do other programs, not just for Columbia. So we also have a national program that we run, which is a 1-year program. So the Columbia program is an executive education program. The program that I run nationally through NMSDC, the National Minority Business Development Council, that program is a 1-year center of excellence, which runs differently. It's a national program, and we have people participating from the councils from LA, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, New York, and New Jersey. And so that is the next step, more strategic program than the executive education program is. And then we've also developed a business accelerator for Comcast NBCU Edge. It's the name of it. Angela Guzman, who is a fantastic supply diversity professional, heads that up. And that program is actually an 8-week program that we created for NBC. And it runs on the East Coast and West Coast, New York and LA, for 8 weeks, especially designed a business accelerator for those in the entertainment business. So those are our 3 primary large projects that we do. We also have other programs that we do for Ernst Young, which is part of the Rutgers Future Scholars Program. Mm-hmm. So that gives you a taste and a feel for the things that Covenant Business Concepts is involved in, helping people answer their unique call to excellence. And we believe that everybody is called and capable of excellence.
Wow, excellent. Willie Mae, one of the things that we always ask entrepreneurs in these community conversation discussions is this one question, right? Okay. When did you know, from coming from a background in the public accounting firms, right? I myself have a background in that too. I used to work at.
Well, I was not an accountant. I was an adult learning expert. I did leadership training for Ernst Young.
Absolutely. So when was that moment when you said, let's flip the switch and let's go into, let's test the waters or to go into a pure entrepreneur space? What was that moment? Like, what was that switch?
Wow. Okay. So I think that there's a crucial moment for everyone to really identify what they're great at, what they're great at and what they love doing. And then after that, it's to choose how you want to meet people. In what circumstances do you really want to meet your customers? So if we take the accounting firm example, Most of those professionals, they have the choice of meeting their clients either through audit or tax preparation or consulting. Those are all three very different business relationships under different circumstances that you're going to meet your clients. And so the question is, are you best equipped with handling crises, right? Do you excel at that? Do you bring calm and strategy and solutions? Or do you not like a crisis situation and you prefer a more proactive approach to your clients? You kind of really need to figure out how you want to meet your customers. And so the moment for me was I'd been promoted to assistant director at Ernst Young. Right. And at level, you're functioning at a higher level, you're meeting different types of people. And right. What I began to ask myself was, well, where are all the Black people? Where are all the brilliant Black people? I was like one of a few people at that level, at that role.
Right.
And
right.
It's a very diverse firm. It's so large, right. That sometimes it could be quite, lonely. You kind of feel like it would be great if I had other people who looked like me, thought like me, And so what I started wondering about is, where are they? And what I realized is that they got to that level where they performed with such excellence, they realized it was better for them to go out on their own and start their own business.
Right.
It was my moment where I realized that corporate America, I functioned at a great level. We had an incredible career. My husband and I were both at Ernst Young, and I wanted to give back. And so I started Business Concepts in 2005 with the thought that I would give back because I was so blessed. And slowly but surely, the business started picking up momentum. We started getting more and more clients. And then in 2009, I left EY to work the business full time. And right. So what I made was a transition from doing professional leadership development training to really empowering small business owners to stabilize their business and then prepare it for growth.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Okay, so fast forward, now we amongst a pandemic that and we haven't seen in modern times, right? This has stopped many businesses. This potentially is going to take many businesses out. And you are in the middle of advising many small businesses, small to mid-sized businesses, and also big corporate Fortune 500 companies. What has been the similar theme from these entrepreneurs, from these business folks seeking your advice, and what has been some of the recommendations you've given them in terms of just how the future looks for them, and what sort of things they should start doing now in order to prepare themselves?
So the number one thing, the two most prevalent things that small businesses confronted was the lack of finance. So in our CCBP program that we teach at Columbia, one of the things we tell them in terms of the 8 drivers of growth, right. One of the 8 drivers is financial management and profitability. Yep. And by that driver, it dictates or recommends that you should have 6 months of working capital. Now, when you're a small business, the thought of accumulating 6 months of working capital when you're trying to stay open day to day seems extraordinary and almost impossible. But the business discipline that you have to have in place is to save every penny that you can so that you do have 6 months working capital.
Right.
George, the students that started with you 2 years ago, hearing that message, those who heeded that message, right, and set themselves up to have a 35% profitability margin, they're in a good position right now. Mm-hmm. It's not as stressful because they got their financial house in order. And then that way, when the pandemic hit and they opened up all those PPP loans and opportunity to get funding, they had all their financial paperwork together. They were able to file for those loans and get that additional money for help, right?
Absolutely.
But in addition, they had that 6-month cushion, knowing that if they don't get that funding, they've already saved up enough money to weather this storm. So that's number one. What happened when that pandemic hit, anybody that was running their business that didn't have that financial house in order face the possibility of having to close their business. Number two is digitization, right? Automating your processes and procedures. So now your customers can't physically come to your business to transact, right? Business, there should be a way on your website that they can make orders, place orders, right? Make the purchases for the services that you provide, whether that is intellectual property or you're actually manufacturing and producing a product. If they can't come to your website and place an order and know that the thing that they've purchased or the service that they purchased is on its way, then you have a problem. So automation could be a weak spot for a lot of small businesses because they do everything, try to do everything manually or physically or have a check and balance in place. So those are the two pain points that if the businesses going into the pandemic didn't have mastery over, that's why they're hurting now.
Absolutely. And this pandemic was definitely a opportunity for the industry, one of the many industries I serve, but specifically the insurance industry, which is the main percentage of my business. It was an opportunity for them to start looking at their business digitization efforts, right?
Yes.
Because our industry for years, I've been in the industry since 2006. The industry was very paper driven. For the first time in my career, I see that they're finally taking steps to sort of digitize the whole process, the whole.
And George, that was by design, because keeping it paper driven meant people were assured of their jobs. Exactly. They kept it from being digitized. They kept it from going to digitization because they wanted to hold on to these jobs that they could not see doing any other way.
And so it took the pandemic for me to realize. I thought that I had my business continuation plan locked, my sustainability plan locked. But I quickly learned that there were gaps, right? Something as simple as my phone service, right? I had a landline phone service, and when the pandemic hit, there was no way for me to forward phone calls to my staff, right? So I was getting all the calls, right? So I had to quickly research a voice over IP company that would sort of give me much more flexibility. And come to find out, it was way more flexibility than I thought that I could have. At a much cheaper price point. So opportunity to save by leveraging technology is big, especially during these times. So let's move on to change management, right? One of the things that you speak to us about is how to manage change, right? So now this particular situation where you have to approach how you do business in a whole complete manner. You have to start taking into consideration social distancing, things that we never really, we heard of, but we never really was forced to sort of do, right? How are people that are, going to launch their ideas or launch their businesses, how should they consider, or people that's within a sort of corporate structure, how should they consider change management, especially as it relates to COVID-19?
Yeah, this is an opportunity from a change management standpoint to take stock of what's broken. So if you're launching a business, what you need to look at is the industry in which you're looking to launch the business and what's missing and what you have an opportunity to offer or introduce that nobody else is offering or introducing. So that's from a launching standpoint. From a change management standpoint of existing businesses, this is great. This is a great time from change management because everything that people held on before and was reluctant to give up because of habit, right? Or comfort issues or complacency, they're now forced to give up. Like, for example, for me, there are a lot of clients that are reluctant to do blended learning or do a type of learning like this. Now everyone has been forced to get on this platform, other platforms like WebEx or the GoToMeeting or things like that. Right. So that eliminates all the resistance that I used to have around training and training in a format like this. If you have a business that by and large was physical, right? So a restaurant is an example of that. You make the food, you serve the food, people come to the restaurants.
Right.
They've had to pivot and look at takeout only. I just got takeout from PF Chang's.
Right.
And looking at the system that they had to put in place for people to call in and place those orders, but then there was still a manual piece that they had to have people outside dealing with the cars that were driving up. So if you're able to look at that and make that change and then train people to adapt to the new system, that's key. We can no longer do business like we're used to doing business. How do we do it virtually, right? How do we use technology to expedite the services that we used to provide and perform? And then what are the manual pieces that need to be improved, right? The process flow for those pieces. Where are the bottlenecks? How do we get rid of that? And that all takes creating either a crisis plan, right? Crisis management plan, and saying in these conditions, nobody's ever dealt with COVID before, a pandemic of this size. So everybody's kind of learning on the fly, and you need to document that process so that everybody understands what's their responsibility, how they're expected to perform, who's depending on the job that they're doing, so that they understand if you don't perform and get this done within a certain time, that means that Jim or Harry or Sally can't get their job done. They need to be educated on that, because a lot of times when you're working in isolation, people don't understand the impact they have on other people because of non-performance.
Right. And this brings me into my next question to talk about the talent development, right? One of the things that you taught me was regarding to my HR function, right? As a small business, we're the CEO, we're the HR director, we're the operations director. So we run many hats, right? But sometimes, so oftentimes, we don't necessarily outsource the HR, we keep it in-house. And when it comes to talent development, I feel that it's hard alone to secure good talent, right? That's one of those, and as an entrepreneur, that's one of those things that, for me, it's ongoing. I'm always trying to, get new talent, get, in the door, develop new talent. And now this pandemic hits, and in one area there is, a lot of talented people in the market, right? But then in the other side of things is that you have to look at talent development in a whole different light now. You have to, you leverage technology, bring in talent. So it's a whole different environment. So what are some thoughts? What's your thoughts on talent development in these times or in the future, especially as it relates to again, people getting ready to launch their ideas, whether they started it before COVID or whether they're actively getting ready to do it post-COVID, in the near future?
Sure, I'll take that in two parts, because you mentioned something about recruiting, right? Hiring new people to come on your team, especially if you have specialty circumstances where you need certain talent that you didn't need before, and now all of a sudden, because of COVID, you need to hire somebody with a particular expertise. So there are a lot of online sites that you can go to. I like to recommend Zip Recruiter. I'll type it in the chat so that you have it. So Zip Recruiter, the reason I like Zip Recruiter is you're able to put categories like screening questions in. I can't type it right now. So
I'll put it.
Zip Recruiter. So when I'm consulting with some of my clients, I recommend Zip Recruiter. Upwork is also a great site to visit. Upwork, we talked about that in class.
Absolutely.
You always have the option of setting something up on Indeed or Craigslist. These are all really good sites and resources that you can go to and use that allows you screening and having certain criteria in place for the type of people that you are looking for. My two favorites are ZipRecruiter and Upwork, because you can see their profiles. Upwork gives you the rate that they're going to charge for their services, and it classifies them by certain industry. So Upwork is a really good site to go to if you're looking to hire new talent with specific expertise. In terms of talent management, you have your staff now, and now you need to train them. There are a lot of online sites that's free. A lot of people go to YouTube and find the training that they need through YouTube, and they get the education they need. There are also options that you have that you can go and use training from LinkedIn. LinkedIn has a series of different training and education. And then I think that there was another training site out there that's used, but I think that the two that's most reliable is leveraging canned training that put out there through YouTube and then through LinkedIn. Those are two great options. Or you may want to customize your training specific to your organization. So when we go back to the program that you're in, George, CCBP, and we talk about, again, the growth drivers, you can't really set up training and development without putting in place the organizational excellence and work culture driver. And you have to define that by yourself. So if your employees right now your business doesn't have a mission statement, right? Or a vision statement, chances are your culture is weak. They need to understand that you as a leader, right? And George, you went through the activity of creating a leadership credo. If they don't really understand who you stand for, what you stand for as a leader, and why that business exists, it's really hard to implement training and development initiatives because you don't have the structure in place to tell people this is who we are about, this is what we stand for under this company banner, this is who I am as a leader, and this is who I need you to be as an employee. Because your employees, they fulfill, right? They are entrusted to fulfill and meet the promises that you make as a leader. Right. Don't understand that they've been entrusted with that. That fulfilling the promises that you've made as a leader, that your organization has made as a company, then they'll do whatever it is that they think is the best thing to do. I was talking to a gentleman the other day, and he was sharing how unprofessional certain people were in the job, how they speak to each other, how they treat each other. And that's a sign of poor work culture. Right. That respect hasn't been indoctrinated, right? It hasn't been socialized. Right. It's okay for them to speak a certain way to one another or ignore customers. So that comes under those 8 drivers, George, and we're talking about organizational excellence and work culture. Right. And so you hit it on the nail. As we talk about talent development, right, as you mentioned, you need to have, before you even go out and get talent, before you even think about recruiting, right, you have to have this sort of foundation in terms of a growth mindset, right? Because, you know, you could have the best talented people, but if they don't align with your leadership credo, you know, chances are they're not going to remain with you, correct? Right, right. Right. And if you talk about, you know, what should I be training my people on in the midst of this pandemic, the topics that you should be training your people on is, number one, how to be solution focused, how to make effective decisions. That's number one. If they can't make decisions on their own because now they're isolated and they can't talk to you every minute, they can't walk up to you and ask you a question. If you don't train your people on how to make effective decisions, how to be solution focused, then what you have is people making a lot of mistakes on their own that they're going to hide from you. Right. Number 2 certainly should be communication skills, professionalism, how to conduct yourself in a business environment, right? Right. George, change management. That is a training workshop that they should take because you have some people who are very resistant to change. And this pandemic has absolutely shut them down because it's outside of their norm. They don't like things being different than how they've set it up. So change management should be one of those things that you're training people on. And then the technical skills, right? The making sure that they understand from a digitized or automated process how to use all the right technology. Your HR is totally set up online. The hiring process, the training process, the performance management discussions are all automated and online. And there's a lot of great services that are out there that will help you do that.
And because of this coursework at Columbia, last year I had a very robust internship program, and one of the things that has saved me, especially during this pandemic, is documenting all my processes, right? And then trying to find digitized solutions to get those things to happen. So thank you, Willie Mae, for harping on that on us. And I'm glad that I see a couple of my staff members on this call. So you're actually helping me out in terms of just now they get to see how I'm thinking, right? And why I'm thinking this way, because we had, of course, made many changes over the course of these past 3 weeks in our agency in terms of looking forward post the epidemic. And let's switch and talk about the growth mindset that you mentioned. Let's talk about mentally preparing yourself for growth as you look at this new world 2.0 that we're approaching. What sort of how does one?
Sure, George. I think growth. Can you hear me okay, George?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
I'm going to go with growth model, right? So let me talk about the 4 drivers in business. At first, you need to get those set up to stabilize your business. We talked about organizational excellence and work culture. Sales, marketing, and branding is also a stabilizer. Financial management and profitability, and then digital technology and analytics. Those are the 4 drivers that will help stabilize your business and prepare it for growth. Once your organization stabilized, what you want to begin focusing on when you're talking about growth is customer loyalty and client retention. Looking at that, evaluating how you're interacting with your customers and what are you doing to make sure that the service quality is extraordinary, right? Especially as a small business, people come in with some preconceived notions about what they're going to experience, that your customers are satisfied and that you're doing something to retain them. The next is risk management. This is often, from a standpoint of growth, something that business owners will ignore. They'll wait until something happens to respond. But if you sit down and you planned out risk management, how to deal with flooding, how to deal with low income, you're not getting customers in the door, how to deal with a pandemic, you have that plan in place, your people are educated and trained, and you're looking at it from a standpoint of compliance. What do I need to be in compliance in my industry? What do I need to do to protect my intellectual capital, right? Do I need to do trademarking? Do I need to do copyright? And then what deterrence? How can I make sure that my employees aren't doing something to compromise the integrity of my business and maybe set me up for a lawsuit? So when we're looking at risk management, we're looking at compliance, protection, and deterrent. The next is diversity and innovation. Are you making the mistake of trying to provide the same products and services to your customers over and over again? People get bored. They're looking for the next great thing, the next best thing. And so you need to be diverse in what you provide in terms of services and products, and you need to innovate, change it, update it each year so it's not the same solution over and over again. And the final one of the 8 is strategic alliances and partnerships, right? How do you reach out to people who are power brokers to be advocates for you, to recommend, right, or refer you to business? How are you aligning yourself and working with other small business owners so that you're able to come with a bigger and more comprehensive solution or product than you would be able to provide on your own? So it's networking and building a strategy around having strategic alliances and partnerships in place so that when you pursue large contracts, you're the obvious best business to go with because people know you in the industry, they vouch for you in the industry, and you have the partnerships in place to bring a more comprehensive solution than they can get from another small business.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that this pandemic has done, which we mentioned it in one of our group class discussions, we talked about perhaps new services you could add to your businesses, new business solutions that you could add. How does one, the question is twofold, right? One is that in a current business or current entrepreneurial situation, how does one test a new idea or a new service line amongst this pandemic? And then the second part of the question is, for folks that don't necessarily have a business set up, but they have a great idea, how does one test that idea during this pandemic too? So maybe those two questions are the same.
So what I do is listen to my customers. So you should have a group of customers who have bought into your brand enough that you
okay.
Conversations about what are their pain points.
Got you.
Which was in place, or how can I serve you better? You know, what's complicated about doing business with me? And just have these casual conversations, because everything about my business, the way my business has grown, has been in response to an impossible situation that my customers confront, and me being able to bring that solution to them so that it's able to create a better way of working, right? Everybody's trying to build a better workplace in this world. I just saw the governor was talking about, what we should be trying to do is not go back to what was, but how can we create something better, put a better infrastructure in than what was in place. So if you're just trying to wait this out and say, okay, pretty soon we'll go back to business as usual, what you're going to find is that there are other business owners right now that's coming up with the next best thing that may make your business obsolete. And so you have to talk to your customers, find out, what's the next level to this, and then figure out how do I create an app for that? Do I create an online solution that they can come to my website and see a demonstration, try on clothes virtually, how their house can be designed differently? Everything can kind of be created online now, and people are expecting that.
Wow. Yeah, I had a one of my clients. They're developing a new sauce, and they sent me the sauce and then immediately after they asked me for some recommendations of how to make the sauce better. But I thought that was interesting because they didn't necessarily have to do that. Especially because they're a new client of mine, but they value my opinion, and they want to make their product better, and they spent the money to get the product to me, and I really admire that. And so these are some of the new things that I'm seeing that entrepreneurs are doing. They're taking this time to test an idea. They're taking this time to sort of get feedback. And then as an entrepreneur, what I've done was I made sure that I reached back to my client base, just to kind of talk about first, make sure that I'm in connection with them, because I don't want to be that person, that business owner that has not reached back into their client base during this pandemic and not checked in, right?
Right.
So checking in and doing so, also getting feedback is what I'm hearing from you, Willie Mae, right?
Yes, you have to understand the pain points of your customers and how you can set your business up to provide that solution. Everybody is selling solutions, and if you're not selling a solution, you get left behind.
Excellent. So I just wanted to, the final question is really about some of the, to sort of highlight some of the fundamentals that you mentioned, that anyone that is looking to launch an idea, launch a small business, no matter what industry, the fundamentals that you need to have in order for you to even consider taking the next step in launching a business. Just talk to us about just those simple fundamentals.
So the fundamentals of launching a business, you either need to have a business plan in place, and that's a very involved, comprehensive document that a lot of people don't like going through the process of creating a formal business plan. If you're an analytical person, a business plan makes absolute sense to you, and you dive right into that process with no problem. If you're more of a creative, big picture person, then what you may want to look at putting together instead of a business plan is something that's called a business model canvas. Business model canvas. It works with panels that ask you specific questions, and then you complete that. You completed a business model. And how was that process for you, George? Can you explain, you going through it? Because I've taught it so many times. How did it help you, business model canvas? And I'll type it in so everybody knows what it is.
Yes, it was fascinating. And the reason is because, first of all, you sort of see your business from a holistic point of view on one piece of long paper, right? As opposed to a very detailed business plan. So it's from a ease of use perspective, it's easy to use, and then from a sort of, it gets your mind thinking of the different segments that your business entails, and also it dissects your areas that you need to focus on in your business, right? And that's what, because for me, when I wrote my business plan to launch my business 3 years ago, very detailed. There was a lot of research, but there was some things that the canvas had relating to just segmentation that was like just quickly there, where you didn't have to go search all the way into your business plan to see it, to find it. Sometimes it may not have been in your business plan, and you're in a general in a regular business plan. So the canvas was just sort of got me into a super focused approach in how what are the inputs and how I'm running my business, right? What do I need? What are the exports? What are the efficiencies, right? In just a simple, focused way. And that's what I thought it did for me.
Yeah, and it's really something that the younger generation, the new entrepreneurs and millennials who are thinking about starting their own business, they prefer. It's a more user-friendly tool. And so I put a link in that you can go in for a free template. It's called Business Canvas Model or Business Model Canvas. If you Google that, you'll see a lot of free templates. And what it does is it helps you think about the core components you're going to need to put in place to start and launch a business.
Right. Okay, so Willie Mae, great discussion. We have about 15 more minutes. So what I wanted to do is take the remaining 15 minutes and sort of answer folks' questions on the chat. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them on the chat. So one of the questions that came up, Willie Mae, is they wanted you to repeat can Willie Mae please repeat the program for those in the entertainment industry?
I typed that in, George, but the name of it is Comcast NBCU Edge Program. It is run by Angela Guzman, and I typed it in the chat for them.
Okay, excellent. All right, so any other further questions? All right. Okay, Willie Mae, I have a question.
Okay.
So one of the interesting things that recently in our past couple modules that we spoke about it's relating to the business digitization,
Oh, okay.
leveraging SEOs and how companies leverage SEOs, right?
Okay, so SEO stands for search engine optimization.
Exactly, exactly. And I didn't know how robust, that whole system is in terms of once you search something, multiple, your data is shared in multiple ways, right?
Right.
Remember that module that we talked about how the search engine works where, you enter your information and it goes to one service provider and then they share a component of it. It goes to another one. And then within a milliseconds, they sort of know who you are, how to market to you. And
yeah, so my recommendation to small businesses is that you want to get an SEO consultant, right? You want to find somebody that specializes in this. And what they do is they set your website up in a certain way that it has certain trigger words that when people type in business development, covenant business concept is going to always come up, number one. And to determine whether or not you need to get a search engine optimization consultant, SEO consultant, is to go ahead and type in either your name. You should type your name in, see what comes up. You have to see if you own your name. So if Willie Mae Veasy, if I type in Willie Mae Veasy, am I on the first page? If not on the first page, then you don't own your name. Your brand, so to speak, your personal brand, so to speak, is weak. The next thing you need to do is go in and Google your business name. So if you set your business up, you should Google your business name and see if it comes on the first page. If it's not coming on the first page, studies show that people seldom go to the second or third page anymore.
Absolutely.
Only look at the first 3 or 4 people that's listed in the page, and they select that assuming that those people are the best. And what a SEO consultant will do for you is they will help to make sure that your website is embedded with certain trigger words. When people search under things in your industry, your name comes up on that first page.
Absolutely. And I know Google is giving out credit for Google Ads amongst this COVID-19 epidemic. So that's one of the resources that you have available to you to sort of highlight your idea. And that brings me into one of the things that you always mention to us is that people buy you. They don't necessarily purchase your business product. They purchase you, like they're buying
they buy into a relationship with you.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And so then we move to image consulting, right? I know you mentioned that we should consider getting an image consultant.
Right.
Why? Can you let the folks know why is an image consultant important?
Because we get comfortable with being how we are. And when we're talking about sales and marketing, there is a formula that you use to become more likable. It's about likability.
Likability, right.
I don't understand that there is, like, Hollywood is probably the best people to look at. They sell us the same types over and over in different packages.
Right.
If you look at Matt McConaughey, for example, he is the new version of Paul Newman. If you look at that brand, if you look at Brad Pitt and other people that we follow, it's a package that they create that studies have shown that people respond more positively towards. Now, getting an image consultant doesn't mean that you're going to become fake. You got to be clear about, again, we go back to the leadership credo. Who do you stand for? What do you stand for as a leader? You've got to go to your image consultant with a clear understanding of who you are authentically. Right. And then you talk to them about building that image, understanding how you sit, how you speak, how you engage people. But the bottom line is this: you have to learn how to make people fall in love with you.
Right, right.
When people fall in love with you, they don't change brands. And if you're coming from a position of they just got to take it like take it or leave it. This is me. This is how I am. That's fine. You know, but chances are is you're cutting yourself off from growing a larger brand, a greater presence in your industry.
Excellent, excellent. Willie Mae, thank you, thank you. Okay, so any more questions? All right.
I got a private message said, what tips do you have for people looking to become entrepreneurs out of this pandemic? And I think we kind of answered this. The thing that I will say to people who are listening, let's say that you're in a low-paying job. This is something to think about. Let's say you're in a low-paying job and you're only getting paid $15,000, $30,000, $25,000. Do you know it's much easier for you to create a business that will pay you that and double that than to stay in a low-paying job? Mm-hmm. What you have to look at is, what are your expertise? And as I mentioned earlier, it's not just about your expertise and what you love to do and what you're good at doing that you can do better than anybody else. If you read the book From Good to Great, it talks about that. Looking at what you can do better than anybody else and feeding that economic engine. Those are great examples, but then you also need to think about, how do you want to meet people? So, for example, somebody that's working in an ice cream parlor, the customers that come into the ice cream parlor are always in a good mood, right? So if you know, I don't handle nasty people well, right? I don't have a good rapport to challenging situations. You've got to pick something that allows you to meet people in the demeanor you need them to be in. So example, if you do tax returns, most of the times when you're dealing with customers, they're in a bad mood. Even if you save them money, they're stressed out, they're in a bad mood. Right. If you're doing audit, whole different relationship with the customer if you're doing an audit versus doing a tax return. So you need to be the secret sauce to that in terms of longevity, sustainability, is to find what you do that you're great at doing, that people are going to pay you for, and then figure out, how do you want to meet those people, under what circumstances? And if you're able to answer that, you're able to come up with a business idea that solves a problem, right? Because you're selling a solution, regardless of whether you're selling ice cream or light bulbs, right? You're selling a solution. And then you use the business canvas, as we talked about, to diagram what that business is going to look like. And then you build a network of people around you that can function as advisors and advocates to get that business off the ground. And number 12 or whatever it is, in terms of tips, you got to have your financial house in order. Right. Personal finances in order, because if you don't have a business and you start a business, they're going to look at your personal finances because you don't have any other financial records. Right. Once you start the business, they're going to look at the business finances and assess whether you are running a profitable business. Right. So that's my final recommendations. I hope that's helpful. Right.
Wow, Willie Mae, thank you so much. I hope the audience has been taking some notes. This has been a very informative discussion. As we close out the hour, Willie Mae, do you have any final thoughts?
I was kind of hoping that we could get questions from somebody, if they would come on the line and ask me a question, or even if you think what I'm saying is not right or correct. So if there's somebody out there courageous or inquisitive and you want to ask a question, definitely ask a question. The other thing I want to encourage people to do is, if you are in a bind, if you are challenged right now with your business financially, reach out to the SBDC, because they have solutions and a lot of great people that can help you submit, a request for funding. So the SBDC, they're there to help you. The Chamber of Commerce, they have a lot of great solutions.
Absolutely.
And NMSDC, the National Minority Business Development Council, they're also there to help you. So don't allow the fear and what seems to be an insurmountable business challenge to shut you down. We had an entrepreneur just a couple of weeks ago said that they were going to go out of business, and we were able to get them connected with people that could get funding for them. So don't let the fear and the terror dismay you to a certain point where you give up on your business and your goals. The one thing I can tell you, there's a great book on social media. It's called Social Media 120 Days. And that is a great how-to book to really get you jump-started about owning your brand, promoting your brand, and being proactive about taking control of your story. The Good to Great book is an excellent book. It won't tell you day to day, but it's a good book from that stand. And this is my favorite book. It's called Predictable Success. Predictable Success. That's a book that we read in the program, the national program that I do. Predictable Success is a great how-to because it takes you through the stages of startup, treading water, and then implementing the strategies you need to put in place to make sure that businesses run consistently. So the name of the book is called Predictable Success. That's an excellent book to read.
Willie Mae, thank you so much. This was
You're very welcome.
Folks, this is recorded. We will have this available on the National Black MBA's YouTube page. We thank you for participating in this hour discussion. Willie Mae, again, thank you for doing this for us.
It's my pleasure. Anytime you need me, George, I will be there for you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm sure this has been a very informative discussion for many entrepreneurs or many folks that are considering jumping into entrepreneurism. In closing, I want to give you this one closing remark by Colin Powell. There are no secrets to success. Don't waste your time looking for them. Success is the result of perfection, hard work, learning from your failures, loyalty to those for whom you work, and persistence. Thank you all, and have a great day. And Willie Mae, thank you again.
It's my pleasure. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.